so little known about children's disease awareness wasn't there. It's just these are lazy kids, these are the naughty kids, and then they were labeled for life.
Why is it so hard for us to expect that of our children, to just give them the space to climb, to pull, to push, to grab, to catch, to throw, right?
I remember that was always a stigma.
Yes, it still is.
Because you feel like, oh, that child, the other friends are like, oh, they're dumb,
Yeah.
or they're going for this extra thing, and they're thinking about it in their head, and then they're making the choice to turn their voices off rather than being feared into it. Keep quiet, or else I will send you out of the classroom.
Oh my God, I cannot even imagine what the child would go through. Today we have with us Naama Singh, who is the founder of Circles and Cycles, a play school in Bandra, Mumbai that follows the Reggio Emilia approach. She's been the co-founder and former trustee of JBC and PAN, and also the co-founder of a popular children's play area, Go Bonkers, in Mumbai. Most importantly, she's also a mum to 3 beautiful children. So welcome, Naama Singh. You know, every time I've met Naama, there's been this amazing, calming energy, aura. She's so centered. When she's with you, she'll always make you feel like the most important person in the room, which is something I absolutely love about her. I want to know how does that come about, Naama? What was childhood like, and what were growing up years like?
Grew up in Bombay, South Bombay. I went to school in South Bombay, and I think I was I compare myself to my brother, who I have an older brother, and he was always academically very bright. So I was always more sport inclined, and the school I went to was a small parent-run school. That was what my parents were inclined to. And up till 5th grade it was great. No real portions, and the traditional
Yeah.
system, the ICSE. So after 5th grade, when it became a bit more rigorous and academic pressure started, I started realizing that I had a different style of learning, and education back then was, one size has to fit all.
Yes.
So, I mean, we all went through it. Mansi, you went through it. And that didn't work well with me. So, I needed a more individualized approach, which thankfully today's IB system and something that we've also started at Circles and Cycles, where we recognize it even younger and not in schooling age. It really does help you to just be seen by a teacher, and be recognized for your talents. So I didn't see that, and I struggled through my academic years in school, but I was always recognized for my leadership qualities, for being able to get the popular vote. But those were not given importance back then.
Yeah.
So those skills were not honed. So I had challenges, and I quickly realized I didn't want to fit in that environment. So I went to a boarding school. I did my British O levels, and I went to a boarding school thereafter. And then I carried on to the US, and finished with my Bachelor in Science in Applied Economics, and came back to work with my dad initially. And through that journey, realized I wasn't cut out for plastic manufacturing. So I went back to what I knew, because I I was a Montessori assistant teacher through my years in school, in college. I was encouraged by my aunt, who saw me in the school atmosphere, and she realized I thrived. I always was the kids' favorite. Just children were always coming to me, and I loved to spend time. So if it was a get together and there were kids, I would be spending more time with them, and I was in my teens at that time. So I come from an entrepreneurial family. I wrote a business plan with the help of a friend, and that's how my first school started, which was something that made provisions to teach children with different abilities. So I was quite set that I didn't want to do the run of the mill. The objective wasn't money. The objective was a social enterprise. So I wanted to spend my time worthwhile. I wanted to make a difference. And I think it still stays true with circles and cycles as well, is that I'm taking the risk to be different.
Did little Nama always know that she wanted to combine leadership and her love for teaching and children? And did you ever, when you ever look back, do you feel like this was meant to be?
So there was always a maternal instinct. There was always that nurturing side of me that I wanted to give more. I don't know if I ever knew that I would be in education per se, but I have a strong family encouragement that came from my grandfather. And he was, in his community, he was a big advocate for women's education. Also come from a legacy of a family of highly educated people, starting from my grandfather to his brother. But education seemed quite natural when I went into it. And it just feels purposeful.
Yeah, especially today where I feel we're all running towards something, and our kids are finding it very hard to keep pace.
And I went through those struggles myself.
Did you feel like you wanted to create for those struggles, Nama?
Definitely. I see, like I said initially, I didn't feel seen. And that really, back in the day, there was so little known about children's different abilities. Awareness wasn't there, so it was just, these are lazy kids. These are the naughty kids. They were labeled, and then they were labeled for life.
Yeah.
All throughout their school life, they were all, and you'll see, it's ironical how those children, when they go out into the real world today, if you look back at those same children who in your class may have been those labeled kids, are now doing phenomenally well.
Yeah.
I went through my own struggles, and I felt that, with the start of a school that made provisions to teach children with learning difficulties when the Right to Education Act wasn't out,
Right.
we really, there was this joy that parents felt when we grew from 17 to 120 kids in 1 year. Just people came because all they wanted was like, I just want my child to be happy.
Right.
I just want my child to be confident. And they did. And then, of course, they wanted more and more and more because they saw their kids were growing exponentially.
Tell me about this first school that you started, and what was the thought process behind it?
And the need of the hour was children with ADD, ADHD, who were not being recognized, labeled, and it kind of reminded me of my journey. And when I went to boarding school, I said, no, I'm going to test myself. And I did come as dyscalculia. I would, 2 would be opposite, my dysgraphia, my D's and my P's. And so it just felt very purposeful when that landed in my lap, and no one was willing to take the risk or back money behind it. And we Pooja and I said, no, we're going to do something that makes a difference. Niche area is what we want to focus on, that nobody else is doing. And that's where we pioneered that first setup, and it was a very fulfilling journey.
Amazing. Tell me, how did motherhood happen? When did it happen? Was Circles and Cycles before or after? Tell me the whole journey.
Yeah. So post running JBC and PAN for 10 years, I got married. So did Pooja. So we kind of, got consumed with life. But then we came together to start a fun children's space, always been in children's space, and it was called Go Bonkers. And
The popular yellow door, which I don't think any mom will ever forget.
So we started that, and always my motto in whenever I start something is, would I want to be going there? And of course, when kids came in the picture, which was after the first year of running Go Bonkers, I was pregnant. It was always in the perspective, will my children, I'm comfortable with having my children here. And only if that it fit the bill, then I said then I can open it up to everybody else. So the kids happened. My firstborn was in 2015, which was at the time of me starting Go Bonkers. And then COVID hit. 2017, I had my second born. In 2019, I had my third. So 2020 was just overwhelming with homeschooling them.
Yes.
You know, we all had to be everything, one for everything. And then once
During all of
2020,
this, you
yeah.
were brewing with something.
But I started toiling with the idea of just getting back to something. I wanted a purpose uh, beyond my children, and more so, I wanted my children to see me in a role beyond their mother, so
Yeah.
that they had something to look up to.
And you've always been very passionate about education.
Very
so I
much
think it's
so.
such a natural progression
Yes.
to see you in that space, toying with the idea
Yes.
of
Yes.
doing something with kids.
And I had everything I knew.
Yeah.
I was in the classroom at the age of 15, working, you know, with humility, whether it was picking up garbage or cleaning a toilet in the US, it's part of the job, or cleaning a child's diaper or whatever it was, to then progressing to starting up my own. I knew it, and I knew the nuances of starting it, the policies that need to be in place, the people who were there, and then as a mother, you also know what moms
Yeah.
want. So
Yeah.
I had both the perspectives,
Right.
and I said, I can give so much to this space, you know, and I can do so much. I was very lucky that I have a support system in my husband. I was able to actualize my dream.
Yeah. When did you know it is, like when you put the strings or the pieces of the puzzle, like this is what Circles and Cycles is going to be
Yeah.
like? This is the philosophy, this is how the space will look. Like, I think before, as entrepreneurs, before we start anything, we visualized it 100 times in our
Yeah.
head. And I know you love your space. I
Yeah.
know you're a stickler for perfection.
Yeah.
And I think the added layer comes in when you're a mother, because your eye for detail
Yeah.
is so fine that
Correct.
anybody can miss it, but I don't think a mom's eye can often miss it.
Definitely. So I think that, you know, in all honesty, when I started Circles and Cycles, first I started thinking about the team, because really that's the heart. With COVID, I had a lot of people who became part of the family, because it was such a closed door. You would only allow certain people
Yes.
in. I needed help. I had an infant I was feeding, and I had two boys who were all below the age of 4. So I had help, and I invited teachers who were teaching them. They became family. So some of them stayed with me, you know, for 2 months. And I started with that. I always aspired. I told them that, look, one day I'll start a school, and I will put you in a leadership position. And they hadn't been in one. So it was also something I felt that I wanted to do for them. And I'd seen them with my own children, so I completely vouched for it, and I wanted to share all the benefits they had given my kids to the rest of the world. So it started with being like, this is the team, and then the team was like, let's meet so and so, and let's meet so and so. It was a very organic process initially, just getting the team right, and that was the heart. As that happened, and as I met Angie again, who is a Pedagogista, Angie is very centered in the Reggio philosophy. And when I understood through her, and we went through training about the Reggio, and I invested that time and effort and money behind being trained, I realized this echoes my sentiments, because through COVID, all of us mums became teachers.
Yes.
And a lot of it we didn't know, right? We were just taking cues from online documents that were being sent to us, and then do this and putting the kids on there. But the instinct of how, you know, when your child doesn't want to do it, but the instinct of having them or luring them in to make it interesting was still up to us.
Yeah.
We were there in that room. And it became a project that we were working alongside each other. So I was taking cues from them, and then I would, give them present something that they had to learn in an interesting way based on their interests. And really, that is what Reggio is. So it's not like, we're dated now with that whole dogmatic or, this is the way it will be done. It's not happening. If your child loves cars, you'll put 1 and 2 and 3 on numbers on cars, and you'll try and teach them those numbers through playing car racing. That was the extra effort, and that's the instinct that we had to learn. So I realized I was already doing that. So it completely connected with me. I said, this makes sense. And this is how it should be done. When I had an occupational therapist come and work with my children, or speech therapist come and work when they're so young. At 3, it's very hard to sit there and say, okay, now do lip drills. Or now do, roll your tongue. They cannot take these kind of instructions. But if you tie it into a game that they wanted to play, wanted to dress up as a chef, okay, we'll cook together. And then when the cooking, this pressure cooker makes a sound, can we do
Wow.
and then they're already doing the occupational therapy, right? So I would have to guide some of the educators who were coming in that, look, you got to speak their language. You can't speak French. They're not listening. In the younger years, this is what creates that love for learning. And I always wanted that because I didn't have that growing up. I didn't love learning. I didn't love opening a book and reading it if it wasn't for homework.
Yeah.
It was important that my children do.
Feel like you've grown with your kids to share that experience with so many more parents, because that experience is so valuable to me.
True. And it's also, Mansi, I think it's so relationship and human based. So a lot of our curriculum is social and emotional development. We focus a lot on it, nervous system development, the things that are overlooked but are so important at that age.
Tell me why.
So the race is reading, writing, speaking. These are the important things. Child walk, all of it. I'm not negating any of that because that is developmental, right? And so we want to make sure that the children are hitting those developmental milestones to make sure that we're not missing anything.
Yes.
Right? So that is a given. We are taking care of that. So we're looking at that in our curriculum. But the social emotional part of it goes back to the beginning of my story. Are your children being seen and heard? And that is really what Reggio is about also, and the school that we're running and the pedagogy that Angela is bringing through her coaching down from the security guard to the DDs to the facilitators is about that intent. And it's about looking at everything with curiosity. So whatever you say, I'm like curious, why? Why do you feel that? And the same about a child. We're not jumping to the gun and saying, okay, I already have my answer in my head. I already know what you're thinking. And kids hate that. It's about keeping that curiosity alive.
We spoke about the team, the processes. Let's talk about the philosophy in the space, because I've been to Circles and Cycles. So tell me all about why, how did you see the space and how did it all happen?
Bombay is, it's impossible to find this space.
Yeah, you kind of forget when you enter Circles and Cycles, you kind of forget that you're in Bombay.
So I wanted, there was, this time I said, one is that I wanted it to be close to home. So I wanted to be able to go there 5 times a day if I had to. So that was one of my first. The second thing is that I just wanted open space because it was so important for me, for children to develop their limbs and their arms and their core and all of that, which I pay a lot of attention to because for me, mind and body are connected. Reggio, as a philosophy, it's open-ended. So your space has to be open-ended.
Right.
It cannot have anything fixed which can only be utilized in one manner. It has to be something that a child can explore again and again and again. So that's why it was very neutral. Plus, just generally I'm a neutral person. I like neutral colors. It's easy, pleasing on the eyes. And of course, we used material that's safe, that's stain free. All the precautions in terms of padding, sharp edges, and all of that, which was still takes importance all the time. And the idea of Reggio was that the classroom will be filled with the children's pictures so that they feel this is their room.
Yeah.
It's ever changing.
Open spaces is what children need anyways. That is something we need to provide them as nurturers, and we're failing to do that. So it seems so silly for people to believe that that's how it's got to be, because as human beings, we've always been very primal in our instincts, right? So today, why is it so hard for us to expect that of our children, to just give them the space to climb, to pull, to push, to grab, to catch, to throw, right? And I think
we're living in a metropolis.
Yeah.
So I think that's one, because space is so difficult to find and it comes with a large price tag. But yes, you're right. It's the basic need for a child. Or if we were living in a Wyoming, or we're living in a place that had enough of land, lots of schools, like popular now, Goa has become one of these where you have open land and kids are learning, or there are farm schools and stuff like that. Those are popular, but people living in a metropolis like Mumbai, most of them are in an apartment building.
Right.
Unless you're a full-fledged school which has, built up the infrastructure, and yet it's a building, it's an edifice.
And tell me, you spoke very well, and I've seen how you've built the OT room at Circles and Cycles as well. The importance of these open spaces on the developmental milestones in terms of the reading, writing. How does it really impact? I want you to emphasize on that.
At Circles and Cycles, I was very keen to do that, because when my children were going through their Montessori in the early years, I remember that my pediatrician pointed out that one of my sons had low muscle tension on one of his legs. And then I had to start OT at home. And I wished so much that it would have come from the school, and they were doing something in school. That in school it wasn't one thing, in this it wasn't. So I was very keen that it happened in the space, but it's an inclusive program that doesn't feel like OT. It's fun.
It's play.
We call it intentional movement in play, but it is basically OT conducted by a certified OT professional that is looking at each child and their nervous system development, their core development, building on those strengths, and making it fun. So they all go out together. Sometimes she cannot work with all 10 children at one time. So 2 of them are in a space whilst the others are playing on the turf, and then they swap. But it's all fun. It's all pretending to be bears climbing a wall or going through a tunnel, and a professional has the eye to look, as simple as a movement of crawling through a tunnel, what it means to an OT and what it means to a lay person are completely different. So there's a lot of insight, and I think that every single thing in medical terms, developmental terms, they say if you start younger, it's so much more beneficial.
Absolutely.
So we just wanted to be that place that is all your needs are taken care of. I think that having all of what we offer at Circles and Cycles under one roof prevents a parent from also having to go to an isolated person who doesn't know the rest of the story. The beauty over here is that the OT is working with the facilitators who are with the children in the classroom,
Yes.
and vice versa. So their information is shared because they do sit in a meeting once a week together. The OT will tell the facilitators what her findings are. That gets incorporated in the classroom. When you go to an isolated doctor or an isolated professional, they have no connection with the school.
Yeah.
And you're just
Yeah.
there's no transformation. You're
There's no
spending
connection
money.
between the two.
Yeah, you're spending money out there, and there's a disconnect. So when I started saying that I'm solution based, it's about something that works.
Yeah.
I'm not going to offer something that is just going to be a waste of time with no transformation.
Yeah.
The idea is that it's got to work. My team at Circles and Cycles and the family that we've grown with, the parents and the children, I feel directly responsible for, in terms of their happiness, in terms of the job satisfaction, in terms of their growth, their personal growth. I really, more than anything, the success tag is if they're happy, right?
But there is this rat race that parents are running where everybody wants to go to an it's school.
Yeah.
How do you, what would you advise parents on that straddling between social, emotional development of the child and getting into a school that where your child will thrive? How do you expect parents to balance that?
So I think hopefully, we are a stepping stone into a big school.
Yes.
We are not a stepping stone to a particular type of school. The idea is to develop their social and emotional skills alongside their developmental skills, so that wherever they go, they're confident. They're able to adapt and deal with the challenges. I think parents always want to expose their children to as much as possible. As parents, we want to give our best to our children. And it is what we think is the best. And there are multiple schools out there who are doing great jobs going forward. It's what resonates with you. I know what resonated with me is where I sent my children, and I thought about, everything and looking at them, and I took a call. Ultimately, we as parents take a call. So I think that my journey with Circles and Cycles has just begun, and it's growing, and it's got people who are appreciating what we do, and we do have plans going ahead. Maybe we have a larger school in the future. I've always wanted to do niche area. I will continue to do that because that's where I can make the most difference. I want to see actual transformation. So whatever I do will be something that will show actual results, and it won't just be for my purpose. It will be tied into a bigger purpose.
Tell me, how do students from Circles and Cycles graduate to the main school?
So I think this is historic. School, preschools, play schools have always been that happy place, right? So Circles and Cycles is the epitome of it. We try and be the happiest place. Going into a larger school is always going to be a little bit intimidating, knowing that children will have separation anxiety and adapting to new environments. We have our first batch graduating and going into school. But what I can say is that when they came to us, they were already those kids who were having separation anxiety, and some of them still going through it. We are doing that transition. We're making it a happy space, safe space for them. We're giving them their first taste of it. So when they move into another school with this knowledge, done it before, it will only be that much easier.
Right.
So, I think that we haven't had our first batch yet join. It will happen in August. But I know that those same children who came to us were clinging on to their mum's legs, and they're saying bye, they're dancing, they're happy in school, they don't want to leave. And some who are still finding their ground and settling in. So I think that I would say the transition would be easier. Obviously, the first separations are tough. I know I sent my firstborn at 2, and I sent my second born at 15 months. 15 months it was easier. At 2 they're a bit more, that was their first taste.
Yeah.
Right? So the first initial, like, we got the hard job because, we have to create that happy space, secure space, first time separating from parents.
Yeah.
Bigger school will have its own intimidation because it's a larger space and new faces, and that's always going to be something to adapt to.
Right.
But they've done it before.
Tell me about all the different programs that you have at Circles and Cycles.
So we have a parent-toddler program which starts at 6 months up until 15 months. Then we have a just toddler program, and then we have a preschool program. Parent-toddler, as the name suggests, is a parent with a toddler or caregiver with the toddler, aunt, uncle, and if it is a caregiver like a staff member, we do have a nanny training program before they can enter the classroom and be with the child, so that we want them to know our philosophy. So our training is really to let them know what the Reggio philosophy is. So they use the same kind of language, and when they're present, because really Reggio is about being intentional at every time. So you can't be on your phone, and the child can't be like, look at this, look at this, look at that, and you're still on your phone. You're there. You're looking, you're down on their level, looking at them intently. You're wondering, you're curious. So we do that with the nannies before they enter. The parent-toddler program is about bonding, is about spending that time. Sometimes parents don't know what to do with my child at 9 months and 6 months, but I want to spend time with them. So this is great because it gives you that structure, 90 minutes, 3 times a week. You come in and you really have music involved in the program. We have a music therapist. We have provocations by Reggio trained professionals, setting up interest-based provocations for each and every child, taking their interests, every single person in that room, and creating something different. And it's all created through recyclable material every day by the hands of the facilitators. And then we have an outdoor time, which is again occupational therapy, which is the intentional movement in play, and then we have our beautiful outdoor play area as well, and that's for the parent toddler. And then we have a just toddler program, which is when they transition from parent toddler, they're already familiar with the facilitators, and that's when the parents are like, we wanted them to get a bit more independent, we want to stop coming, so they have more independent time. It's a longer duration of a class. They're there without their parents or nannies. We do allow for some caregivers if a child is feeling a little unsettled for some amount of time. We transition them out. They learn to be independent, wash their hands independently, sit with their peers and eat snack together. Again, they have music, big part of the program. Provocations are slightly more challenging, a little bit more developmental, whether it's puzzles, with sorting, with any of that, but they're doing it independently. We have intentional movement and play. We incorporate STEM, which is science experiments. We incorporate cooking, which we have because we have a hydroponic system, so they learn how to whip up a simple, healthy recipe and they'll eat together. So that's part of our Just Toddler program. And then after 24 months, so the Just Toddler program is 15 months up to 24 months. And 24 months they go into a preschool program. And that is, again, has everything that I mentioned, but it's all one level up.
Right.
So, they're doing a bit more math, storytelling, comprehension, language, as well as STEM, as well as cooking, as well as
Right.
intentional movement and play, and it's a longer duration of
Right.
time.
I find that so interesting because I get this question all the time, Mansi. What is the right age to send my child to a play school?
Yeah.
And would love to know your thoughts on that.
I think that a parent-toddler program, like I said, is something that is with a parent and a child. And we've had kids at 6 months join us, and by 2 months into the program, they came as little ones, just probably sleeping or enjoying the music, to completely wide-eyed and listening to cues, responding, and very quickly, because it's the stimulus around you that will make you alert. So it's definitely better than sitting at home in the same environment. We are a safe space. We have purified air, so we're clean, we're very hygienic. Like I said, I do not. It's an extension to my home. So whatever cleaning materials we use in my house is the same that is there, and I'm quite meticulous about it. So in terms of health and safety, I think it's fine. That would be the only reason one would say stay within closed doors. But in terms of stimulus, creating curiosity within the child, it's so good because there's so much happening, and it's with the parent. So at 15 months, of course, sometimes there are children who are not ready. And what I love about Circles and Cycles, we aren't a dogmatic school. We are a school that partners with parents. So again, it's not a one recipe fits all. We will make sure at the end each need is taken care of. So we are quite individualized with the families, with the children. Where there's need for extra support, we are open to it. But at 15 months, there's some of them who've been together since they were, and the parent toddler already aware of each other, and they're really they're developing bonds already.
Yeah, and I find that so interesting. I see a lot of parents doing a lot of classes, whether you mentioned whether it's music, whether it's movement, whether it's intentional play and movement, outside of school, or before their child actually goes, before their toddler actually goes to school, not thinking that if it was a space that you were anyways looking at for your child, it becomes such a natural extension. Your child will be so much better settled if it was actually a familiar space like this, that they'd probably be settled at 18 months because they've been going there since 6 months.
And that's true.
So it'll be such a natural extension of starting out, because they feel so much safer, it's familiar, it's almost like womb-like, right, for the child.
And we also have an after-school program. So a lot of the children who are in school, again, parents are so comfortable to send them. The nannies are so comfortable. So we have French, we have dance, we have now starting Bharatanatyam, jazz, and we are focusing on the little ones, because I remember when in my time, whenever I would call an art class, there was a 2.5 plus.
Yeah.
You cannot send before that.
Yeah.
Because they weren't trained professionals to teach children younger than that, because they're not instruction based. But we take on that challenge. The Didis are there, they're familiar with them. So there's always, and they know them so well.
Yes.
So you don't, parents also don't have to feel like they know that, okay, that one is there. I know that they know how to deal with them.
Absolutely. Also, I know that you're someone who's always striving for excellence. You have your, you have Angie, who's come from the World United Nations School in Vietnam, who's joining you very soon. Why was this very important to have a pedagogista from someone that you're familiar with, somebody who's got so many years of experience? Why is that such a core part of what you want to build?
So one thing about Angie is, I say this, is she eats, sleeps, breathes Reggio. Having her here now full time from July onwards is really going to be so much more beneficial. We made it work because we've had, again, very structured meetings with facilitators after she comes back.
And she's fairly familiar with India.
So yeah, Angela did spend 8 years in the American school, so she loves Mumbai. That's an added benefit.
And she understands that Indian parents are result driven, but they're ready to adapt to build the child's social, emotional.
And I think that's the most important thing, because at 6 months and 1 year and 2 years and 3 years, if you ask 99% of parents what do they want their child to be happy. That's the first thing. Now what happens is after they realize the child is very happy, and then they're saying, now what? Can they learn a little more? Can they now do this? Try and build around making it special for each child.
Right.
And that's ultimately what the parents want.
Right. Naama, can you give me some more examples, like you said about, keep quiet versus quiet voices.
Yeah.
That can resonate with parents to say, this is the difference. This is intentional.
Yeah.
And this is what happens at Circles and Cycles.
Yeah. The idea was to be able to use music as a tool of a cue. If you say everybody's voices, quiet voices, or, turn off, stop talking, stop pushing, versus if you just say, let's stop pushing, please, or, let's sit down in a musical voice, or voices off versus voices on, and just cues, whether it's an action, whether it's a musical singing, it's the tone. And then they listen and they're able to...
They're receiving.
They're receiving
They're receptive.
it. And they're thinking about it in their head, and then they're making the choice to turn their voices off, rather than being feared into it. Keep quiet or else I will send you out of the classroom.
Oh my God. I cannot even imagine what the child would go through.
Yeah. Or, go in a corner, you're not listening.
Yeah.
So it's fear-based
versus
empowering the child.
What next? How do you want to see this baby grow and flourish?
Yeah.
Do we see Circles and Cycles all across the country?
I hope so. I think that, Circles and Cycles, I like the tagline, Circles and Cycles for the involved parent. Because we are for those parents who want a say in their child's life. And we all do, not that we all don't, but some of us are saying, listen, leave it up to you guys and do what you have to. And there are some parents that say, I want my child not to have screen time. I want my child to be like this, and I want my child. Of course, you can't live out your dreams in your child, but I would call that an involved parent, a parent who wants to be present. So I think the journey for Circles and Cycles is that I strongly feel I'm not stopping at one. Definitely want to spread the joy. I think somewhere in the future, maybe something again in niche area, going up, even graduating to kids who are juniors or teenagers, taking them all the way up. We have family. My husband's involved in sports, NBA, and things like that. There's a big affiliation with physical and mental. Somewhere something will brew, and that's the hope. But I think we're getting started.
Thank you, Naama. It was an absolute pleasure chatting with you. And like I still have in my closing remark, you're so centered, so grounded, and listening is an art and a skill which very few possess. And I'm so happy to chat with you today and empower so many parents to know that the first few years of life are so important in shaping that human being to be a lifelong learner, which is the ultimate aim for our children.
Thank you, Mansi. You have the skill of listening, which is why we're doing this in the first place. And thank you so much for spreading all the work that I'm doing with the rest of the viewers that you have. It's I hope that it reaches as many, and wonderful to invite them into our school.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Parenting tips, celebrity interviews, recipes, conversations with experts, DIYs, and lots more. Subscribe to Kidsstoppress now.